And thanks for the introduction. That was really great. So tonight we're going to be talking about the sacred bond between humanity and the earth. What we're going to do is we're going to start off quite generally, not with any religious writings. We're going to just start off with the environment. And then we're going to get onto writings from the Bible, from the Quran, and from the Bahá'í writings. And there are three topics that we're going to look at. The first one is about interconnectedness, so the connection between humanity and nature. And then we're going to look at nature as a reflection of the divine and how we learn from the environment around us. And then the sacredness of the earth and God's divine presence in nature is going to be our last topic. So it's quite short, but I want you guys to be involved, okay? So just interrupt me whenever you find something that you want to say, and then we can chat about it, okay? Awesome. Can we get the lights off? Okay. So we're going to start with a poem. It's by a poet called Prince E.A. He did this as part of a National Geographic poetry competition. The reason I wanted to show you this is just because it will give us something to think about as we go through the presentation. And this is a poem I play for my students at the beginning of the semester, but we talk about the law stuff. Today we're going to talk about the spiritual stuff. So just the stuff I wanted you to look at. This poem talks about kind of what we've done to our environment, and I think that is relevant. And the reason why I think is more important. So in the Baha'i faith, we believe that there is the material and the spiritual, and they are like wings of one bird. So on the one hand, you have the material, which is necessary, but you also need the spiritual. And this poem speaks about how maybe we have looked at the material quite a lot without considering the spiritual and nature in general, what that means for us in terms of spiritual beings. And then the other thing it talks about that maybe you'll pick up is that we are all intrinsically connected to the world around us. Us as humans are interconnected, but we're also connected to the environment, and we have a space within the environment. So we're going to look at that too as we go through some of the readings. And then, yes, let's have a look at what the poem says. Cool, let's do it. Go.
Fun fact, planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Mankind, about 140,000 years old. Let me put that in perspective. If you condense the Earth's lifespan into 24 hours, that's one full day, then we have been here on this planet for, drum roll please, 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And look what we've done. We have modestly named ourselves Homo sapiens, meaning wise man. But is man really so wise? Smart, yes, it is good to be smart, but not too smart for your own good. Yes, we have split the atom. Yes, we build clever machines that navigate the universe in search of new homes, but at the same time, those atoms we split created nuclear warfare. In our quest to explore the galaxy, rejects and neglects the home that we have here now, so no, that cannot be wisdom. Wisdom is different. While intelligence speaks, wisdom listens. We willingly covered our ears to Mother Nature's screams and closed our eyes to all of her help-wanted signs. Wisdom knows that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so if we were wise, we would not be shocked when we see storms that are stronger than ever before, or more drought, hurricanes, and wildfire than ever before, because there's more pollution than ever before, more carbon, more trees cut down than ever before. At a record pace, we have increased the extinction of animals by 1,000 times the normal rate. What a feat. In the next 10 to 100 years, every beloved animal character in every children's book is predicted to go extinct. Lions gone, rhinos gone, tiger, gorilla, elephant, polar bear gone. In 3 seconds. Species that have been here longer than us will be gone because of us. In this 3 seconds. In an existence shorter than a Vine video, we turn the circle of life into our own personal conveyor belt. Somebody, anybody help. We were given so much. The only planet in this solar system with life. I mean, we are 1 in a million. No, actually, scientifically, we are 1 in a billion, trillion. That's a 1 followed by 33 zeros. And I don't want to get too spiritual, but how are we not a miracle? We are perfectly positioned to the sun, so we don't burn, but not too distant, so we don't turn to ice. Goldilocks and invest. We are just like this paradise, where we are given medicine from trees, not coincidentally, but because like the song says, we are family. Literally, everything, every species is connected genetically, from the sunflower to the sunfish. And this is what we must recognize before it's too late, because the real crisis is not global warming, environmental destruction, or animal agriculture. It is us. These problems are symptoms of us, byproducts of us. Our inner reflection, loss of connection has created this misdirection. We have forgotten that everything contributes to the perfection of Mother Nature. Corporations keep us unaware and disconnected, but they have underestimated our strength. Contrary to popular belief, millions are waking up out of their sleep, seeing our home being taken right up under our feet. We cannot allow our history to be written by the wicked, greedy, and loony. It is our duty to protect Mother Nature from those who refuse to see her beauty. Call me crazy, but I believe we should have the right to eat food that's safe, with ingredients we can pronounce. Drink water that is clean, marvel at trees, breathe air free of toxins. These are natural rights, not things that can be bargained for in Congress. See, they want you to feel powerless, but it has been said that something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing can cause a typhoon halfway around the world. But when enough people come together, we too will make waves and launch the world into a new era, filled with love and connection, freedom for all without oppression. But it is up to you, yes, you watching this behind this screen, to make the effort, because time is of the essence, and only together can we make it to the 4th second.
Wow. The end. We can go home. So the very first thing I want us to look at are some quotes by people you may recognize. I don't know if you know the first name, Gaylord Nelson. He's the founder of Earth Day, which is a significant day for us in the environmental space. I don't know if everyone knows about Earth Day, but it's a day where we switch off our lights and think about the environment. But the rest I'm sure you will recognize: Albert Einstein, William Shakespeare, and Thomas Edison. So who would like to read us? Would you like to read all the quotes for us? If you want to.
I will read one.
Okay, no problem.
The unique test of man's conscience may be his willingness to sacrifice something today for future generations whose words of thanks will not be heard. I can read them all if you want me to.
Yeah.
Okay. Our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. One touch of nature makes the earth's world kin. Until man duplicates a blade of grass, nature can laugh at his so-called scientific knowledge.
So any thoughts about something that stood out to you? Anything? There's no right or wrong answer, but something you thought, I heard some people chuckling about the last one. Why did you find it funny?
So true.
It's funny because it's true. Any thoughts?
Well, I think we make, manufacture a lot of things that maybe aren't necessary.
Mm.
And that's something that's necessary, and we can't do that. Now, egos, of course, in the way.
Of course, yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Like I know, equally,
Mm-hmm.
people are sick and tired of living in the major cities, and they're going into the countryside, into small farming, having small lodges for tourists and so on, like Airbnb and things like that.
Yeah.
Because people are really, really sick and tired of the cities. The rush, the running around, the smoke, the everything. And I don't have to tell you, you know it all. But what I'm trying to say is they're going back to nature. This is the example I can give you about Italy, because I've been there I know that more and more people are going out of cities.
Definitely. And with remote work, you see that all over the world.
Yes.
No one has to work
Yeah.
in a city, in an office. So people are looking, like you're saying, to go back to nature and to have that spiritual connection with the world around us once more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go for it, Sonia.
I think we've been conditioned to such an extent where we live paycheck to paycheck and we have to be selfish. We live in our little bubble and not realizing what the impact that type of living has. But it also keeps us from thinking about the future and what are we leaving behind for future generations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thoughts on that, dear? Are you sure? Uncle Chris?
Just to build on what Sonia was saying, the first one, the ultimate test of man's conscience may be his willingness to sacrifice something today. Because we can talk till kingdom come about climate change, but this is actually requiring us in deeds, Our deeds need to match our words.
Yes.
Because all these COP meetings you have, people sign all these fantastic declarations and intentions, but actually nothing comes of it,
That's so
The
true.
deed is missing indeed. And I think the sacrifice is what we're grappling with. We're not prepared to sacrifice something, for the greater good. And that to me is where the problem is, that it's the deed seems to be missing.
So like that, the Baha'i saying, if deeds not words, be your adorning.
Right.
Yes, we have to do something about it, right?
But isn't it as well the notion that we need to understand our place in this world, that we are a link in the chain of life.
Yeah.
And as soon as we do something that goes against the whole, then that link either has a crack or ruptures or breaks. And then there's issues that start arising because of that.
Yeah.
Because that link, the chain that we are part of, we are not protecting. And I think it's that's first one I find very powerful, because it makes us think beyond ourselves. First of all, who we are as part of this world, as part of an ever-advancing civilization. So we're going to have children, our children are going to have children, it's going to carry on. They'll talk about us as their ancestors at some stage, right? And so I think understanding our place and then understanding the world, and then we can make that connection with, the future generations. If we don't know ourselves, then we don't know
Exactly.
the rest.
And we're going to talk about this interconnection between us and the environment. And I just wanted to point out a few things. So as Baha'is, we talk about empowering humanity in the way that we teach the faith, in the way that we reach out and try and empower our communities around us. And sometimes we see, I think there was one quote that I found that I thought was quite cool. It talks about how the earth is but one country and mankind its citizens. And it reminded me of that one touch of nature makes the whole world kin. So this is just the Baha'i version of that. And I think sometimes we forget the earth part. The earth is but one country. And that, we were talking about that interconnectedness. We're part of an ecosystem where we all exist. And if you think about mankind being the citizens of the earth, we already have something that unites us. We have one planet, and that's where we live. And that's that's the environment in which we exist. And I think that's also important that we remember. And then, like we were saying, the last quote is quite humorous. The poem talks about how we're so smart and we have this wisdom, but we don't listen. We split the atom and we can, connect people via the internet and all these wonderful inventions, but we can't replicate nature. And that's something I think we need to remember. And why can't we do that? Is something that is, that's in God's domain. It's not in our domain. Maybe one day when we are in the next world, we will understand why. But for now, we don't know how to replicate a blade of grass. So we need to protect the blades of grass all over the world. Cool. So the next slide we're going to have a look at is all about African traditions. And okay, I think the first one's actually an Aboriginal proverb, but I left it in there because I thought it was important. So as Africans, we have this unique relationship with the environment. If you look at ancient traditions in Europe, they also have references to the environment, but in Africa, it's really profound. Lots of our stories, our traditional stories are around nature and what nature can teach us. So how the zebra got its stripes and, things like that, how the giraffe, had a long neck. These kind of stories that we share with our kids, we use nature to explain parables almost. And these I quite liked because these proverbs, they're quite old. We don't know who they're, like the first ones we knew, Thomas Edison said this particular thing. These are really ancient. They're just part of a general tradition, which I find quite important because, like the writings, these African traditions have used this natural environment, the natural environment to teach us. And we're going to look at some of the quotes that also use nature as a teacher. So if you think about the Bahá'í writings, just as an example, we use flowers of one meadow to talk about unity, roses of one garden to talk about unity, things like that. So we're using metaphors from nature to help us understand what God means. So before we get there, who would like to read it? Aftia, you're up next. Oh, do you want to read?
Okay. Yes, please. Look after the land, and the land will look after you. Destroy the land, and it will destroy you. Treat the earth well. It was not given to you by your parents. It was loaned to you by your children. Wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it. When the last tree dies, the last man dies. An isolated tree cannot stand the might of strong wind or storm. A single tree does not make a forest. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
There's some wisdom in these things, right? And these have been around for ages and ages and ages. So I tried to get some from different parts of the continent, and then I ended up with two from Ghana. But I think some of these mirror some of the Baha'i teachings. So if you think about a single tree does not make a forest, also talks about unity, right? We need to unite mankind. When we talk about the wisdom's like a baobab tree and no one can embrace it. It teaches us, that we don't have wisdom as a single person. We need to work together with others in order to achieve the greater peace or Baha'u'llah's vision for the future. We all have different aspects that when we bring them together are world-changing. In the legal world, that principle, the fact that we're borrowing the earth from our children, is called intergenerational equity. So we want to make sure that we are protecting the environment and not abusing the environment so there's something left for our kids. So there's equity between generations. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, that's a modern day term, but it's been in the Swahili tradition for, who knows, millennia, decades. Yeah.
Tanya, as an environmental aware, what is, what is one of the main or top things in terms of what we talk about sacrifice? Mm-hmm. What would be a practical example of that? Do you have, like, because I'm trying to think that in terms of where we're looking at wisdom as being a united thing, I'm trying to look beyond what is, the individual's action.
Yeah.
Like, what is the group action and sacrifice? Because it's not like anybody's come to our door and said, can we have, like, let's not buy an air fryer, kind of thing. Like, what? So, yeah, I was just wondering from an environmental law perspective, what is like the top 3 things in terms of sacrifices needed?
Anyone want to hazard a guess? No, there's no right or wrong answer. Do you want to chat about Who wants to go first? Go for it.
No, about the sacrifice.
Yes.
I don't think it's a sacrifice, but not sure if I'm on the right track. But I think plastic, has overtaken the world. So for me, it's a sacrifice, because I grab my plastic bag as when we all go shopping, we take plastic bags, right? So for me, it's really a sacrifice. I try as much as I can not to use a plastic bag, although my house is full of plastic bags. So I try now to use and it's a sacrifice personally, to use either a paper bag or any other bag but not plastic. But I think on a personal level, these sacrifices, it doesn't come easy. I want to say, look, I'm not going to take the car. I'll cycle here. It's not practical. It would be a huge sacrifice. But I think it really starts with each, like I think someone said, individually. So for me, it's the plastic issue. If I'm going to sacrifice, from now on, I'm really, from tomorrow, I promise you, Ali, I'm going to not take a plastic bag.
We're checking.
Eddie, you wanted to add?
No, so I think I was thinking about a similar, question when I read about that sacrifice. And I think the first thought that came to mind was, thinking deeply around what is it that needs to be sacrificed?
Yes.
And I think sacrifice of time, going to, be part of an organization that is planting trees. Nowadays, you buy certain bags or certain items, it's written on there that, this item is, recyclable, or this item is a replacement of about 3 trees. What does that mean? It means that if you sacrifice time and go build and go plant trees, you've actually replaced that valuable item that you feel you need, right? I think it's the sacrifice of our capital, of our money. Donating to organizations that we feel are doing good for the environment. That could be part of sacrifice as well. And of course, what Auntie Abdia said, things that we feel we can do without. Sacrificing the over-excessiveness, recycling our clothes. I love those, I think it's called thrift.
Yeah, thrift stores,
And all of that, So I think it's really the consciousness.
Don't you think though that it's mostly, it's there's 5 companies in charge of 90% of all the corporates, and they're the ones that really don't have any, it feels like we don't have any say over. So there's been, what kind, plastic that biodegradable plastic available for years. Why does it, just on that single thing, why does it take so long to implement laws for those huge corporations or things to then take shape in the world?
Yeah.
Do you have
the law is always playing catch up. So you think about how fast technology is moving.
Yes.
There's no law that says that deep fakes can't be put in as evidence in court. We are so far behind when it comes to legal precedent and the way that we move through the law. It's like moving through molasses, you just we'll get there eventually, but we're always playing catch up.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the environmental law space tries to do is we try to regulate the use of natural resources. So instead of saying it's a free for all, we say, okay, you can mine in this particular space, but when you mine, we want to make sure that you are mining in this space and putting these precautions in order so that you're not polluting the water and causing acid mine drainage and things like that. And we're going to hold you accountable for rehabilitation and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But that's still a backwards way of thinking, right? It's still like we're going to try and prevent pollution and we're going to try and be cautious. But the thing is, we don't know what we don't know, right? So we don't know how a mine's going to affect us 300 years from now, because we haven't been mining that long in this large scale. We don't know what GMOs are going to be doing to us in 500 years, because we've had GMOs for the last few hundred years. So in 1,000 years' time, we have no clue. So all we're trying to do is mitigate the harm. And mitigating the harm doesn't prevent the harm. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of individuals, like Aunt Aptia was saying, it takes a whole mindset shift. We have to change the way that we behave. And the way that we behave is very difficult to change because it's not just us as individuals. We need to change the corporations' behaviors and the government's behavior and the behavior of, societal groups and all of these things. There needs to be a complete shift in the way that we look at the world. And I think that actually brings us on to what we're going to talk about a bit later. We'll be talking about how in Baha'u'llah's new order, everything needs to fall apart for us to rebuild. And I think the environment is part of that. Not that it would be great for the environment not to fall apart, because you don't know what's going to happen to humans, but without the environment. But with the New World Order, with Baha'u'llah's New World Order, we are looking at massive change and an entire rehaul of the way that we think about each other, about the world that we live in, both spiritually, materially. All of that needs to change. So it's a bit of we call it a wicked problem because there's so many different elements that they all need to work together in harmony, which we're trying to do in order for that to actually have some results.
Like there is progress, right? There is progress. If we take for the example of Woolworths, the way that the process they took to kind of get us to bags, those cloth bags, right? Yeah. I mean, it took several years. It was by this date, we're going to phase out the plastic bags. Yeah. It was a process of education. There's all sorts of kind of, advertising and promotion and education around it. I mean, even, for instance, how Woolworths has shifted all of their chocolates and sweets not to be near the till. So now they have the more healthy snacks, right? Yeah. The dates and the raisins and those kinds of things, right?
What's the price though?
Yeah. Well, that's the question is now, how do we make this mainstream? Because everything, the good stuff is now all alternative. Yes. It's all more expensive. If you want to go organic, you're going to have to pay, otherwise you have to plant in your garden, right? Yeah. Otherwise you'll have to pay twice the price. So it's how do we move the alternative to the mainstream?
Yes. Okay, let's look on to the next thing. Okay, so let's look at this interconnection. So now we're going to look back to the spiritual, the writings in this case from these are the Baha'i writings. So who would like to read next? Go for it.
Interconnection between humanity and nature. Reflect upon the inner realities of the universe, the secret wisdoms involved, the enigmas, the interconnect, the interrelationships, the rules that govern all. For every part of the universe is connected with every other part by ties that are very powerful and admit of no imbalance. That's from Abdul Baha. Every man of discernment, while walking upon the earth, feeleth indeed abashed, inasmuch as he is fully aware that the thing which is the source of his prosperity, his wealth, his might, his exaltation, His advancement and power is as ordained by God. The very earth which is trodden beneath the feet of all men. From Baha'u'llah. We cannot segregate the human heart from the environment outside us and say that once one of these is reformed, everything will be improved. Man is organic with the world. Sharifin.
So the reason I included these quotes is just to show us, I think, Jam, you spoke about it, the fact that we exist within this ecosystem and we're all connected. And I think the first quote by Abdul Baha basically says that. Every part of the universe is connected with every other part. So we're not isolated human beings who just happen to want the oneness of humanity. We are connected not only to each other as humans, but we're connected to the space in which we live. The last one says, man is organic within the world. And then when Baha'u'llah also reminds us that the earth, if you think about the earth itself, our life, our strength, our wealth and prosperity, it talks about, our civilization comes from the earth. The fact that we have massive industry, the fact, like you were saying, the fact that we have massive industry, the fact that we have all of these scientific advancements, the way that we live and how we live, we have water pumped to us. That was never a thing back in the day. We have food brought to us. All of these things depend on the earth. It's not something that we can just generate, even though they're trying to make that meat in a test tube. But we'll talk about that later. But I think what we forget is that our whole, all of our achievements are rooted in the earth, and that at the end of the day, we are linked to the earth. And when we teach, as Baha'is, that we said before, we teach and we focus on the human soul. But humanity is one part. When we talk about man as organic in the world, it implies, in my mind, you guys can disagree, that the natural environment also needs to be considered. And maybe we can keep in mind that we can learn from the environment. We're going to talk about that next. But before we talk about learning from the environment, anything that you guys want to chat about in this slide, about this interconnection and our space within the ecosystem?
The second quote sort of makes me think. It says, every man of discernment, while walking upon the earth, feeleth indeed abashed. Actually, we feel very arrogant.
Exactly.
Exactly. We walk on this earth thinking that it actually belongs to us and we can do whatever we think we need to do, I mean, that's arrogance, right? I mean, that's the height of arrogance. That's probably part of the problem, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we should start feeling abashed that the thing we walk on is actually the source of our life.
100%.
But of that consciousness has not yet, I suppose it will come, but it's not there yet. We still think that we are somehow, as I said, really, we own this place.
Exactly. That's why I included that quote from Thomas Edison about not being able to produce a blade of grass. Baha'u'llah tells us, you guys don't know what you're doing. This is a gift to you. And we don't appreciate it sometimes. We even consider it,
So then, in extension of what Uncle Krish is saying, if every man of discernment should feel like that. So we're clearly not there yet. So maybe we should every man should look at becoming more discerning.
I think that's what it is, right? It's about observing and understanding. And I think we don't just take the time to do that. We are rushing all the time, and just the kind of understanding how nature works, the perfection that nature is. It's amazing. I mean, when you think about this perfect cycle of life that is all around us and how we are disrupting it, right? And even our bodies. I mean, how perfect the body is in the way that it works, right? Everything is connected, all the cells working. And, you know, an ailment is when it's not working. So maybe an ailment in nature is when something is disrupting it.
And we're going to actually talk about that now when we talk about the nature as a reflection of the divine. So, Sonia, you were talking about being more discerning. The next two slides are about how nature teaches us. And it teaches us both physically, like we learn things from the environment, scientifically, all of that kind of thing, but also in parables, in stories, in metaphors, that the environment can help us understand the way that God has intended us to behave towards each other and to behave towards the earth, and then how God fits into that picture as well. So, Uncle Chris, would you like to read for us? Did you read before? Yes, you read, hey?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Sorry, I don't know your name. Would you like to read
My
for
name
us?
is Safi. My English is not that good to read it for you.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
Go for it.
Nature as a reflection of divine wisdom. But ask the animals and they will teach you, or the birds of the air and they will tell you, or speak to the earth and it will teach you, or let the fish of the sea inform you. Which all of these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this in his hand in the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind. And he knows what is in the land and sea. Not even a leaf falls without his knowledge, or a grain in the darkness of the earth, or anything green or dry, but is written in a perfect record. And Allah has sent down rain from the sky and given life thereby to the earth after its lifelessness. Indeed, in that is a sign for a people who listen.
Yeah. So this is from the Bible, from Job, and from the Quran, two writings from the Quran.
Yeah.
So Job, just to give you some context, in the Bible, there was this guy, and his name was Job, and he was being tested a lot. Like he lost everything he had, this really prosperous life, and then he lost everything, and he had to learn to believe in God again. And he did, and he became prosperous again. But one of the really cool things about that book is that God teaches Job a lot of things through nature. And this, I thought, was quite cool when it talks about how we need to look at all the aspects of nature can teach us something. And one thing that I didn't include it here, hey. Okay, well, when it says the birds of the air will teach you, there is another verse in the Bible. I think it's in Matthew. I'm going to look it up. Oh, I have it in my notes. Let's see. It says here, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. And you think about this and you're like, we worry about how much money do we have in the bank, you know, all of these kind of things, and yet God will provide for us. So when it tells us that we can look at, you know, the birds of the air and the fish in the sea, they teach us some valuable lessons if we just observe, like you were saying, and slow down. Sadia, would you like to read the second last slide? I promise. We're nearly done.
Nature is a reflection of divine wisdom. Stop and consider God's wonders. Do you know how God controls the clouds and makes his lightning flash? Do you know how the clouds and poised those wonders of him was perfect in knowledge?
Sorry, go for it.
Whatever I behold, I readily discover that it maketh thee known unto me. And it remindeth me of thy signs and of thy tokens and of thy testimonies. By thy glory every time I lift up mine eyes unto thy heaven, I call to mind thy highness and thy loftiness, and thine incomparable glory and greatness.
So these quotes, all of the 5 quotes we read about nature as a reflection of divine wisdom, you said that, nature invites us to like slow down and think and observe because we want to be discerning men and women. And if we listen to the world around us, it will teach us about God, God's nature and what God expects of us, and gives us hope as well. And nature is not merely background noise. It's not just, a space in which we exist. It's reflection of divine wisdom. And God has put us here and given us the bounty of having nature around us to teach us. And I thought that was quite nice. And that brings us to the final topic, sacredness of the earth and divine presence in nature. Who's next? Would like to read for us?
Sure. Let the heavens rejoice, let the earth be glad, let the sea resound, and all that is in it. Let the fields be jubilant, and everything in them. Let all the trees of the forest sing for joy. Let all creation rejoice before the Lord. Verily, all things we have created in proportion and measure. You shall not defile the land in which you live, in the midst of which I dwell, for I, the Lord, dwell in the midst of the people.
So the first verse I had to learn as a child in Bible class. And it always stuck in my mind. I had like this image of those cartoon images of like the earth smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the earth was glad. And then this is how I remembered it, okay? And then the sea was like beating all these drums, the crashing waves of beating drums. And then the fields were jumping up and down. I don't know how they did that, but I just saw corn jumping up and down. And then the trees singing. I felt like the trees were a choir. And because we went camping, when you at night and you're surrounded by the woods and you just hear sounds for days, it's actually deafening sometimes. That's what I pictured. And I think it's such a beautiful voice, a beautiful verse, because it shows us how creation also rejoices in God's wonder and his beauty. Such a beautiful verse. Any other thoughts about not only that, the other verses as well?
Yes, very all things we have created in proportion and measure, which creates balance. And what our actions are creating imbalance. We are messing with the proportions and measures. And that will have consequences for us.
True.
Very true.
I don't know if anyone remembers a few years ago, touch of fashion, and they kept on hovering through radio, TV, and so on, to make the size of a door, say 1 meter by 2 meter, plus minus, and plant vegetables for the families instead of going and buying, create your own food.
Permaculture.
Yeah. And I don't know if people are doing that, like in the small vegetable garden. I mean, it suffices to have the size of a door. That's it.
I think COVID did that, eh?
Yes.
During COVID, a lot of people woke up to suddenly, what can I do at home? How can I, create or grow something? And a lot of people turned to cultivating their backyard or pot plants or whatever, with veggies and all that. Yeah. So I think it was, at the kind of the climax of COVID, which was highly disruptive, and often very dramatic. I mean, people lost family, friends. There was a lot of fear. But so many great things were triggered by this devastation of COVID, right?
Yeah.
We were all at home and suddenly we had to look back to our families, sit together for breakfast and lunch because we were all working at home,
Yeah.
And suddenly this whole revolution, I think it was a point in time where it was kind of a wake-up call to kind of tell us what is important actually in life. We need to eat, we need to drink water, we need to have family, we need to be able to socialize, we need to love and be loved, all these kind of things. And so I think a lot of people during COVID woke up to that of what is important in life.
I think also homeschooling started from there.
Yes.
And you saw pictures of dolphins in the Thames because there just weren't people around and it was, pollution was clearing itself up. You saw blue skies in New Delhi where it's usually just smoggy and full of pollution.
So
It's all pictures.
At the end of the day, the world will recover if we're not here.
Yeah.
It's just, that's just what it is. So I'm just going to end off with my favorite slam poet. Uncle Chris, you've heard this before, and John, you've heard this before.
Yay.
But the reason I also wanted to end off with this, we started off with materialism and the material and spiritual. Now we're going to end off with the material and the spiritual. So this poem is one of my favorites because it allows us to think about why our perspective of nature is external when actually it's our planet. So let's have a look.
That's straight on YouTube. I think so.
There you go.
Oh, this is louder.
How could something this big be invisible? The ozone is everywhere, and yet it isn't visible. Maybe if we saw it, we would see it's not invincible and have to take responsibility as individuals. How can something this big be invisible? If it's all around us, it should show itself on pure principle. The scientists are claiming that the damage is residual and climate change data is reaching levels that are critical, yet somehow that's political. We argue over math. Our citizens are too cynical to believe in facts. We make excuses and hold on to the recent past. We don't want to sacrifice, so we refuse to act. I grew up in a city. It's all I ever knew. So even now, I have nothing to compare it to. I have to hit the park to see more than a tree or two. I have to visit nature like it's in a freaking zoo. But California was wild before the parking lots, before the mass malls, before designer shops, before the strip clubs, before the sea change, when mountain lions roam freely over freeways, before the fast food, before the freeze frames. We live around a bunch of dead things these days. It's not an argument for better or worse. It's an observation on how we've been treating Mother Earth. And we always seem to mistreat the ones we love first. But if aliens arrive, we'll be human beings first, and then we'll do anything to defend our home turf. We would fight to the death for the planet that we hurt. See, we protect what is ours. My land, my life, my house, my kids, my job, my wife, my dog, my car, my country, my culture. But when it comes to nature, our perspective is external. The planet, the forest, the ocean, the skies, the mountains, the valleys, always the. Never mind if it's not me, never mind, I'm too busy all the time. And without the ownership, we ignore the warning signs. Just look at all the species on the planet that are dying. The coral reefs, the honeybees, mysteriously dying. 1/4 of all the mammals that exist are dying. 1/3 of all amphibians are at the risk of dying. We're on a path to mass extinction. It's almost like we're trying because we're relying on an atmosphere that we've been frying. I could use more statistics, but you probably think I'm lying because over half the politicians we elect deny them. Well, since when did your opinions outweigh the science? I thought experiments were fundamentally unbiased. Capitalism uses nature as its example and excuse for competition. The only problem is we've removed it from the ecosystem. Profit and balance in the market are attainable, but growth without a conscience is completely unsustainable. A lion doesn't kill all the gazelles. Why do we have to have it all to us? Pretty soon, there'll be nothing left but concrete and cars, and when you see an animal, it'll be like a movie star. The planet, the forest, the ocean, the skies, the mountains, the valleys, always the. Never mind if it's not me, never mind, I'm too busy all the time. And without the ownership, we ignore the warning signs. Our planet, our forest, our ocean, our skies, our mountains, our valleys, always we, always mine, my planet, my forest, my ocean, my skies, my mountains, my valleys, always we, always mine, always me, always yours. One little dot in trillions of stars. One little dot. It's all that we've got. We just forgot that none of it's ours. We just forgot that all of it's ours. One little dot in trillions of stars.
You like it?
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I've also heard it for the second time. Okay, so this is the last quote. Jam, can you read this one for us, please?
Say, nature in its essence is the embodiment of my name, the maker, the creator. Its manifestations are diversified by varying causes. And in this diversity, there are signs for men of discernment. Nature is God's will and is its expression in and through the contingent world. It is a dispensation of providence ordained by the ordainer, the all-wise, Baha'u'llah.
Last thoughts?
Man of discernment is back.
Yeah. Nature teaches us to just got to discern.
Discern. It's there. We just have to see
it. Yeah. What I loved about this is that nature is the embodiment of God.
Yes.
So if we think about, the beauty within nature, that's the beauty of God. If we think about the mosquitoes biting us, it's also God reminding us you're not immortal. But I thought that's quite beautiful, talking about nature's in its essence, the core of nature is the embodiment of God.
I think it's beautiful if you think that, in the Baha'i writings as well, they talk about how is a mind, gems of inestimable values. Yes. And this notion that nature is the embodiment, is the embodiment of my name, of God, of the Creator, and He created us. Mm-hmm. So in effect, we are also part of this nature, right? Mm-hmm. And nature, so we are embodiment
of God
too.
Mm-hmm. So you're part of nature. Yes. That's absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
I saw somewhere it described as, you got a painting, which is the equivalent of nature, and every painting has a painter, and the painter is God, right? So you look at a painting, every attribute of that painter is embedded in the painting. So when you admire the painting, you got to acknowledge the source, the author. But we look at the painting and we sort of have opinions about it. But actually there's a connection between the painting, its nature, I think you mentioned before, and the painter. And the two go hand in hand. But somehow that link has been broken.
Yeah.
So we see creation as a separate, standalone thing, a plaything we can play with, you know. But in essence, this embodiment, the painting is the embodiment of the painter, you know. So that to me is a picture that comes across.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any other closing thoughts? All good. Eddie, would you like to say our closing prayer?
Sure. I wish I'd given it to somebody who can sing it.
Oh, no, don't worry. You can sing. In your head.
Sure. Blessed is the spot, and the house and the place, and the city and the heart, and the mountain and the refuge, and the cave and the valley, and the land and the sea, and the island, and the meadow where mention of God has been made, and his praise glorified. Baha'u'llah.
Thanks so much, Ali. It was a wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. It was an engaging talk. I think we all loved it. We all were part of it, participating. Thanks so much for this and for making us think about nature and our and the ecosystem which we are part of.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. And please, let's carry on the discussion. There's tea and coffee and cake and hot chocolate. Let's have some cake and let's carry on the conversation and get to know each other better.
Yes.